Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this subdued Sunday sunset safari. It's a glorious afternoon here in the western fringes of the great Kruger National Park in South Africa. My name is James Hendry. There we go. And over there we have an impala, and filming that impala we have got Craig, the Batman. He's lost the impala now. I have as well. I think he's behind the bush. We were told earlier by our security detail, Herbert Causer, standing over there, you can see the magnificent man that he is, that we should leave the impala alone because he's under stress. That, of course, is true. The impala are under a tremendous amount of stress at the moment, given that they are rutting and trying desperately to set up territories that will be acceptable to the great bevy of wives they wish to attract. Please do talk to us using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter and, of course, the chat stream on YouTube. It would be wonderful to hear from you during the course of this afternoon. I find myself often walking on Sunday afternoons. I've now got something stuck up my pants, but that shouldn't worry you. And I like to walk on a Sunday afternoon because, of course, that's what one should do on a Sunday afternoon. When the sun is out and the sky is blue and the birds are chirruping away, autumnal as it might be, it's very pleasant to be out here on foot on a Sunday afternoon. So we'll be with you until 6 o'clock, probably till about 5:30 on bushwalk. But now I wish to hand you over to the finest specimen of humanity that East Africa has ever produced, Mr. David Gitu.
Hello everyone, and look at me, and anybody who saw me 8-9 hours ago this morning, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers and a blanket on top of myself. Huge difference. The temperatures, as James might have said, have doubled to about 30 degrees Celsius, 80-something odds Fahrenheit. Look at those temperatures and what we had this morning. It's a huge difference. The temperatures have gone up and my number of layers on me have gone down. I have only one layer at the moment. What a beautiful world. Termite Mount. So many people will be living in this block, built by the termites. And you could have monitor lizards in here, squirrels will live in here, and sometimes even snakes. And with that note, I have to go back to the car. A very big welcome to all of you, and remember to keep in touch with us on Twitter, hashtag SafariLive, and on the YouTube chat. Tell us your feelings, what you'd like to see, and ask us as many questions as you can. My plans are this morning, I will do the same loop I did earlier, as I just jump in the car. What I did is this morning, what happens in the wilderness, you might take a particular track one way and see nothing, and maybe come back the same way and see a lot of stuff. So I'm not worried that what I did in the morning might still be a bit quiet. You never know what could be happening there. So you're going to take the same track as I did this morning and see what will be there. All right. With me today is my very good friend Sebastian. He's on camera.
Hello, everyone.
Yes. And he does such a great job on camera there. You're very welcome, sir. And yeah, let's have all of you on board. Let's see how our day will be. Sorry, Cousin Jo loves what? What was her name? George, thank you very much. And good to hear you love my belt. Yes, this is a beaded belt. And it's made by a tribe in Kenya called the Maasai people. I'm happy you like my belt, and maybe one day if you come on safari with us, I'll get you one. Alrighty, and as James said earlier, we also have another gentleman who is on four-wheel drive like me, and his name is Steve.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David. And welcome all of you to the show again. Beautiful afternoon here in the Sabi Sands, South Africa. My name is Steve Falconbridge. I'm joined on camera by Davisito, otherwise known as David. And we are out in search of everything wonderful and marvelous. Obviously, that is what we do out here. We talk about things marvelous and we show you beautiful things. And we would like to find some cats because apparently this morning nothing was found. It's all tracks, and tracks, and that's all there was. But I was nosing around over there, and I stuck my head in a fallen marula. Look at what I found. The beak of a hornbill. Very, very cool. Now, hornbills like to nest in cavities of trees, and it's possible that maybe it died in there. It's not a fully mature beak, it's quite small, but maybe there was a youngster in there when the tree fell over. Maybe it was killed by its sibling. Sometimes that happens because hornbills have got something known as asynchronistic breeding. So when they lay their first egg, they start hatching it. So once the first egg is laid, they start hatching, and then the next day they lay another egg, and then the next day another egg. And so you get this stage of development where the first one hatches first, takes more food than the second one, and then more than the third. And if it's a year of plenty of food, all three do well. But if it's a year of low food, then one of them is not going to do very well. And this marula has definitely fallen down more than a season ago. So maybe it happened during the drought. I'm not sure. I wasn't here. I've only been here since January. But marvelous nonetheless. And my scratchings continued. And I was actually going to do a little tree quiz with you this afternoon. But look at what I found on this branch here. Can you see it? He's right here in front of my finger, Dave. It looks like a stick. It is an insect of sorts. It is unbelievably camouflaged. I wonder if any of you insect lovers out there can take a screenshot and tell me what it is. I've never seen something like this. It's not a stick insect, but it's a stick-like insect, which looks just like the plant. Are you getting that? Can you see that it's an insect? I was blown away. It moved when I cut the branch off. It's a bark insect, Kirst. Is it? Okay, bark insect. That's Kirsten from FC's summary, bark insect. So let's see if anyone else out there can hashtag Safari Live or comment on the YouTube stream. What insect is this? But I'm going to go put it back on the tree in a moment. But first, I wanted to see if any of you out there can tell me what tree this is. Hashtag Safari Live. It is a very common tree. Those of you out there, I have spoken about this. I am going to get back onto my tree vibes to see if you've all been listening. And this tree is marvelous for... Is that working, Dave? Yeah, this tree is marvelous. If you break the leaves off, you can make a lovely tea. So an animal that would like to eat these leaves, David's got one of them. So let's go over there.
Right, and I'm sure all of you have seen this antelope here many times on your screen brought to us. And I'll give you my first quiz today, and anybody who would tell me what this animal is, I'll give him or her some big applause and claps from Africa. And just simple clues. He is a ruminant, as you can see him there, and he is regurgitating and chewing cud. Look at the huge fringe hair that he got on the neck, on the dewlap there. And the spots on the face, very good job there. And that's a female just passing in front of him. So anybody who would be able to tell me the species or the type of antelope we got here, as usual on Twitter, hashtag Safari Live. And there's one female running behind him. I'm not sure she wanted to spook or to scare him. Let's see what the female wants to do there. And the two females there, Coley, you get it right, and I hope you hear my claps all the way from Africa. Well done, Kuru, well done, well done. You must have been a very good viewer of us. Well done. And yes, is kudu, and precisely the greater kudu. Well done. I'll give you another quiz much later. Maybe this time get a bird species for you instead of an antelope. I think that was so easy, right? Give you something tough. And we'll now try, see, yeah, the male kudu is moving, following the two females there, and they do not know whether they had an issue between them. And the male is slowly following them with some bird on top of its back, getting a hitchhike. But ideally those birds there will get the parasites out of their bodies, and that is what is called a red-billed oxpecker. Red-billed oxpecker. And as the male slowly walks away, we'll also try... Yeah, it's coming out again. Those are the two females there. They were going for each other. I do not know why. Sometimes, you know, females will have an issue over males, which rarely happens. It's normally males that fight over females. And baying browsers in general, you will see they're only eating leaves because mainly the kudus are browsers. He got huge rack of horns, Charlie. I hope you agree there. Huge horns. Where I come from, when you would see the kudus, when they would naturally die, people would get the horns and they would make some very nice musical instruments. And you would play music like, you know, a flute, and would play the music during wedding ceremonies. In the background, I'm not sure you can hear, there's some male impalas rutting and snorting and making all these rutting calls. Yeah, those are the females there now. The number is growing up. We got 4. We had initially 2. And the oxpeckers will still keep busy in getting the ticks and the parasites out of the bodies. So what you see them doing now is they're not chewing what they just ate. They chew it a little bit, swallow it, and regurgitate it later and re-chew it much finer because they got 4-chambered stomachs, the kudu, or most ruminants. And because of the heat of the day, you notice they're enjoying some very nice shade from where they're eating. And the quizzes continue, and Steve, I'm sure, is waiting to get his answers.
I am indeed. How is everybody this afternoon? And did you manage to come up with anything on my tree quiz? Wasn't the best sample, but that is the way it works out here. There were no fruits, there were no flowers, there were no seeds. Michelle, no, it was not a marula. I'll show you once again. Just so that we're clear, this is a simple leaf plant. Pea heart, no, it's not a tambuati. There's simple leaves that are oppositely arranged. You can see there's one on that side, one on that side, and a very characteristic leaf twist. James, you're in the right sort of family, but the wrong tree. This twist on the tip of the leaf here is what gives it away. Very nice twist over there, and these trees occur what we would say high up on the slope because they like to pump lots of moisture up from the roots down deep, and they're losing their leaves soon. They have got fruits and pods around, but I haven't shown you them. So James, you are very close, but we were not correct, sir. If I give another few minutes now that I've given away the twist in the leaf, very characteristic. And with these trees, you find them on the top of the slope where we are here, and there's no thorns in the trees. Stick mantis, Catherine. Okay, it didn't seem to have any sort of mantis type sort of appendages, but I need to maybe have a look at that screenshot again. I've never seen anything like that before. He was very new. But when we look up on the slope here, the trees have got large leaves to pump the water from the bottom, and we don't have too many thorny trees up here because they don't really want to slow down the feeding from herbivores. They mainly have tannin in them to prevent them being eaten by insects. And as you saw, that insect on the plant itself was there. And if we look at this tree over here, the branch, the leaf, it's been munched away there by some form of caterpillar. So no thorns up on the slope. You mainly find the thorns down on the bottom, where the browsing is a lot sweeter and tastes a lot better. When up on the top, you generally find more chemicals. And if we look just left of us, you can kind of see a band of silver cluster leaves. And I'm not going to eat one of them again, no matter how nicely anybody asks me. Do you remember Brent Leo Smith's challenge? I still haven't gotten him back for that. He challenged me to eat a leaf, and it's loaded with tannin and chemicals. Project Alpha. Twig snout bug. That sounds about right, Project Alpha. I've never seen one before, but thank you. Twig snout bug. Send those through on Twitter with the screenshots so I can save them for later reference. Project Alpha, that does sound about right. Anyway, if you made that up, well done. Whoa, Matt, it's not a guarri. We are on top of the slope. We find guarris normally at the bottom. Loads down, way down at the bottom. I will find you a guarri, though. I love how I've got everybody guessing. Lots of names. Remember the Tambuti? Right at the bottom. Jackalberry right at the bottom. Those occur in the drainage. We are on top of the Katina right now, folks. So, very common. And I'm going to give it away. Are you ready for it? Dun, dun, dun. The big reveal. This is the red bush willow. The most common tree we find up on the top of the slope here. And this is called mixed bush willow felt. A very common tree up here. Combretum apiculatum is the species name, because the apex of the leaf, let me show you. Apiculatum means to have a twist in the apex, right over there. So that is the dead giveaway for the tree, and all the bush willows have got this double leaf, so they're opposite. And these leaves are far larger than the russet bush willow, and the russet bush willow we generally have growing down at the bottom. And so not the same, but the same family, Richard. So very, very similar. But the leaves are very, very big. These, that's about 3 inches or so, whereas the russet bush willow is probably only about that big in size and rounded at the top. Okay, very good. Very good. Everybody's awake now. Now we can do a hard one. So let's go over the Bushwalk team and see what interesting information James is going to impart.
Well, I was trying to find something interesting to impart to you at the moment. I thought about doing a sarcastic tree quiz by doing something like this. What tree is that? But then I thought some of you won't find the sarcasm very amusing, so I didn't do that. Anyway, let's carry on. Kirsten says that's a leaf. You see, people like her that I was worried about when I thought about my tree quiz. Anyway, we've come almost to the far northern fringes of Djuma, where we're hoping to pick up on thwacks of the Ninkapuma Pride from this morning. We may or may not be lucky. Who knows? But what we have here, Craig, is some cotton wool that is growing in a plant, a grass of some sort. Now, what is that? Let us investigate and find out. For I have no doubt that all people around the world watching this broadcast are now sore amazed. Is it perhaps a spider? Is it perhaps a hibiscus seed caught up? Can I pull it towards myself, Craig? Thank you so much. No, it's been tied together very deliberately. No, that is of animal making, everybody. That is created by an animal. No, it isn't. It's exactly what it is. Those are the seeds. No. They're not seeds. Those are the seeds of the grass, and I'm not going to destroy it. There's a spider inside there, or something inside there. Let's leave it alone. I don't know what it is, but that's been produced by an animal. Absolutely no idea. Could have been a spider? Perhaps a small caterpillar? It's very, very thick. Anyway, it's sitting on the tips of a tuft of guinea grass, or Panicum maximum. And this is the kind of place, well, you'd quite like to spend the rest of your afternoon, I tell you, looking at the waving culms and seeds as the sun goes down. Wouldn't you, Craig? Yes, Craig says, oh, well, listen. Right, I believe that this segment is going to finish now because Kirsten says we're going to go to David, who can actually find an animal.
Right, yes, after that segment there, and we got some antelopes that we do not have in Kenya. And this is the nyala, or these are nyalas, and apparently in the whole of East Africa, we do not have the nyala. Females, as in most antelopes, you'll have the females without horns and the males with the horns, and these nyalas here also do not have horns. And I'm been very excited the last few days every time I've seen a nyala on a drive, because back home in East Africa where I come from, the nyalas do not exist. We'll move forward a little bit, see whether we can capture a little bit more on the left here. Let's see, Sabi, if we can get the ones on the left again.
Yeah.
Stop there. And that's a young male. Horns are just starting to pop up. And the stripes, not very different, from like what you see in the kudu, and also them being exclusively browsers. But once in a while, like you see there, you'll see them foraging on the ground, looking for small little herbs. Few ones trying to cross the road there, Seb. Sorry to look at them. Because the question is, do they have the same number of stripes on their fur? I'm sorry, I am not 100% sure of that answer. I might want to find out, but if I would want to compare that question to a question I would get in Kenya, say, about the zebras with their stripes, I would say the zebras got different stripes. No one zebra is like the other. I'll find out later on and know if the stripes will be the same number here for the nyalas. I'll find out and I'll let you maybe know, if not today, definitely tomorrow. A huge male also was trying to cross the road. I'm not sure whether the male won't come and join the females here. Let's just pop forward a little bit so they can get the male. Equally huge, nothing big like the male kudu we saw earlier. Ravinda, you say you confused a little bit between kudu and the nyala. And now if you look carefully, now you can see the difference. The females here are a little bit like brown chestnut in color, and the kudu, I would say they are more brown. The males of the nyala are not as big, and their horns, if you look the one walking away there, it's not as spiral as we saw before with the kudu. And I'll show you later on, just keep enjoying that view there, and I'll show you how the males of the kudu would be very, very different. Hopefully you saw the male we had before. If not, I'll show you, and you'll see why they are quite different. The two species are quite different. Ravinda? All right, Seb. So So, Ravinda, look at the size of that antelope there, and that's the greater kudu. And you can tell, or you can see the horns are huge. And you see, they're all very, very spiral. Unlike the nyalas that don't take all those twists and turns. This rack of horns here are huge. They are massive. Sorry if you have some glare there, but shortly now I'm going to show you how a nyala's male horns look like, and you see they're quite different apart. Right, Ravinda. Hopefully you see the difference there. So if you can show them now, they'll see that's a male nyala. And see, these have only, say, one twist. That's it. If you also look at the amount of the fringe hair the nyala has, all the way from the neck to the abdomen, you can see there's a huge difference between the two. And Ravinda, yes, you are very welcome. Thank you for, that you have seen the difference. You're very, very welcome, Ravinda. Right, and we'll move on, and hopefully we'll see more of the kudus, more of the nyalas, and the difference will still keep playing out. All right. Not forgetting the kudus are also equally heavier than the nyalas. As we keep trucking here on 4-wheel, we've got a gentleman who is on 2-wheel, and let's find out what he's doing.
Well, what we have here, everybody, is the same plant that I found the other day, and very kindly we have a suggestion from Judy H. Solanum tomentosum, synonymous with Solanum burchellii. I didn't remember that, I'm actually reading it. Solanum burchellii, synonymous with Solanum, the other word I've now forgotten, one second, Solanum tomentosum. So, Judy H. and I had a brief discussion on the tweet about whether or not this was in fact the case, because it's not always a spiny plant. And I found it the other day, not with nearly this many fruits on it. And that's how Judy H. managed to identify it. And I'm now convinced that she is in fact correct. As usual, this is it is. Solanum burchellii, or Solanum tomentosum. Now, as we got here, Craig said to me, he said, that looks like a tomato. And so I said, Craig, yes, it does look like a tomato, because indeed it is part of the same family. It is the deadly nightshade family, to which, of course, the aubergine and the peppers belong, as does the tomato, the potato, and the poison apple here, and then this Solanum. Craig, would you like to eat this tomato? Doesn't it look nice? Cody, I'm going to say no, you can't eat them, because I think that although they look like tomatoes, many of these, or the flowers here, or the plants related to the deadly nightshades are quite toxic, and so I'm not going to eat this. And often the orange ones are toxic. I don't know why that is the case. But you can see it really does look like a miniature tomato bush. This one's not quite as thorny as the other one, but it has got some nasty spines on it. And Carolan, you say you like the colours, be nice to plant. Yeah, the colours are quite nice. I don't know what the flowers look like. You said it would be nice to paint, not plant. Yes, I think it would be nice to paint. It's got a smell about it, not unlike a tomato bush, which it's not a particularly nice smell, I don't think. Anyway, then, also here, I'm going to pick this thing, a piece of the flower that keeps on giving, that is, of course, there we go. Look at the little beetles. The Waltheria indica. Can you see them, Craig? Very sweet little black and white beetles. don't know what kind they are. They're only about 2 millimeters across, and they're devouring the small leaves at the top of Solanum, not Solanum, of the Waltheria. Very nice. Let's just put that one back there, so that they might survive into adulthood. They've decimated the small plant. But isn't the Solanum fantastic? I'm very grateful, Judy H. Thank you very much for identifying for it. Yeah, Kathmandu, if you look around where I'm sitting over here, you can see that the grass is no longer particularly green. It's taken on a sort of goldish hue, and that is typical of the drier season. So yes, it is getting drier. Certainly it's noticeable in the grass, but there's still plenty of good forage for the animals out here, so I don't think they have anything to worry about from a forage point of view. And it's been a very good rain season, so I don't see that there's going to be any particular shortage going into the summer. I mean, yes, it'll be a bit rough come August, September, but after that it should be fine. So I think everything is in pretty good shape at the moment pretty good shape for an easy winter for most of the animals. So that, in summary, Solanum burchellii or Solanum tomentosum, synonymous with each other, those two, and a magnificent example of the deadly nightshade family. Okay, Stephen is now taken over the mantle, I see, from Brent Leo Smith, and he is the quizmaster in chief.
Did James just call me the chief? I'm very proud. James never said something so nice to me before. Well, we are on the western side. We've had tracks of the Unkuhumas that they were following up on this morning. And while I'm here, actually, there's a lovely tree. There's two lovely trees here, for those who got a little bit confused with the trees earlier. But we're looking at tracks. And the big tree you're looking at now is a jackalberry. It's a marvelous big specimen. Very long, lanceolate leaves, without the twist, and they generally occur around water. A good indicator of water, in fact. And then, for someone who guessed jackalberry, that is the jackalberry. And then behind Davy, you know the guarri just here, one of David's favourite trees. This is, in fact, the hairy guarri, and also very, very evergreen, long, greeny leaves. You can confuse the jackalberry and the hairy guarri quite easily, but do not confuse them with the red bush willow that we saw earlier. Much rounder and broader leaves, not the same sort of greenness either. They've got a bit more yellow to them, and these two plants here are indicating that there's some form of moisture in the undergrowth. But we've just come on to the western side to see where the tracks of the Unkuhumas might have gotten to, and I've been chatting with Herbie on the radio. He's with the Bushwalk team, and the tracks have come to here, but they haven't crossed over. So we're going to go back again and see if we can give a help. Herbie and James aren't far away, so we're going to see what they come up with, but we're going to keep driving around. We might go down to have a look where there's some water, because we know lions like to drink, especially when it gets hot. But it doesn't appear as if they've gone west across the boundary here, which is great. So hopefully we can find them for you. But the Bushwalk team, their tracks are all over the place from here this morning. But Herbie doesn't seem to think that the lions are gone. They're here somewhere. I think they must have just run out of time. I can see the big track there of Brent Leo Smith, who has now gone on leave. He looked very happy to be departing. I think he gets to see Jamie in a few days, so I'm sure that's another bonus. Okay, so lions could be anywhere in here. As I said, the Bushwalk team is out and about, and we are enthusiastic, and we're excited, and I don't think in this temperature the lions are going to be doing too much. As you saw with James Hendry last night, he spent some time with them, and only right towards the end of drive did they start moving. That's just typically the way it is. So ideally we need to find some fresh tracks, and Herbie and them are really close by, so I'm sure they're going to be back here soon. But I've got a feeling that the lions are in this block over here on the left. And marvelous indeed, another tree that we were getting confused with before. This one right next to us, Davy, the russet bush willow. You can see the leaves are very, very small. And obviously I didn't show you pods earlier, but look at those leaves. They're almost the same size as the pods themselves, but they are very round, not very broad in their size. So lots and lots of trees out today, and this is definitely a tree that the kurus like to feed on. Coast side of the red bush willows don't actually get very big. They generally grow up, as I said, up on the slopes, and so they only experience a wet season growth. So they are probably one of the hardest woods you find in the area, and they make phenomenal firewood. Not that that's the only function, but they are termite resistant. I'll show you a relatively decent size one, but they don't get much bigger than that. They only grow in the wet season, and because they're high up, they lose moisture, they drop the leaves, and through winter they're completely dormant. But they're related to the leadwood, but the leadwoods grow down in the drainage line, so they're growing all the time. That's why they get so much bigger. But you ask a farmer, any farmer will tell you the tree that grows at the top of the hill produces the hardest wood, because it is growing in the summer, and then in the winter it goes dormant, so it just lignifies, it gets harder and harder and harder. Okay, well, let's go back to the bushwalk team and see if they've managed to find any tracks.
We found a few tracks, and we're now in some fairly dense bush over here. And in that dense bush, we're hoping we might flush a pride of lions. Herbert, do you think we're going to flush a pride of lions here? So they killed an impala there last night, we think, which is quite a long way from where they were hunting. Actually, it's about a kilometre or so. I'm surprised it took them that long. I'm also surprised that the wildebeest survived their evening on quarantine clearings, because the fact that those lions didn't go for one of them, I think, speaks volumes for their kind of random approach they have to hunting. Anyway, their tracks then went across our western boundary and then came back again, we think. So we're quite close to the western boundary now, and you can just imagine how easy it would be for lions to hide here. And so we're just stepping carefully. We don't want to give them a fright. Mostly we don't want to get a fright ourselves, and we don't want to, as Herbert says, dance too much today. That's what happens when you almost step on lions. So Herbie's just checking on the ground there. Only he will be able to see tracks on ground this hard. I can see that something's walked there, but what it was I couldn't begin to tell you. Now, one of the things that people are most concerned about out here is whether or not it's safe. In Kushambi, it is safe. This is not a Red Bull sort of adrenaline sport that we're doing here. Oh, hang on a second, I'll get back to you on this. Steve's got an interesting bird.
We found ourselves a southern white-crowned shrike. And you can clearly see the tip of the beak is very, very sharp, a very characteristic feature of the Lania or shrike family. And this is one of the cooperative breeding shrikes, and easily seen by that white crest, or the helmet, should I say. Always generally found in groups. I don't know where his family is. Maybe they're out foraging. This one stayed home for a bit of a view. But they are omnivores, and will feed on small mammals even, if they can, lizards, potentially even small snakes, but then lots and lots of insects. And the reason all these shrikes, they fall into what we call the butcher bird family. They are, as I say, omnivores, but also predatory. They will use sharp spines and thorns to impale their prey, and enables them to then rip it apart. They don't have a strong foot like many of the raptor species that you find, that will use the foot obviously to hold the prey as they rip it apart. They'll often impale it on a spike, very commonly seen with barbed wire, It acts as a larder for advertising territory, advertising the ability to provide food, and it also assists in ripping much bigger prey. If you've seen the birds, most birds, they swallow their prey whole, but if you're a shrike, you generally catch prey that's too big to swallow whole, so you need to be able to use some form of mechanism to assist in tearing it apart. And it's so marvellous how he's just sitting there for us, eh, Dave? I wonder if he knows where the lions have gotten to. It is a beautiful bird. There it goes. And I don't know if you could hear that noise it made as it flew off. It sounds like a squeaky toy that you give to your dog, and they squeak with their mouth. Very easy to identify when you hear them flying. Okay, and on we go. Okay, well, seeing as our bird has flown off, let's go back to hear the end of James's tale.
So, I'm glad you got to see that bird. So, no, it's not dangerous out here. People often ask that as if we, in some way, have an adrenaline junkie's view on life, which, of course, Craig behind the camera does. But for the rest of us, no, it's unsafe out here at all. As long as you're trained to deal with the animals and you know what to do if you see an animal, so if we were to happen upon those lions, we know not to run, we know to stand still. If you were to come across a buffalo, well, you'd hopefully see it before it saw you. So we're always looking carefully under every bush, around every tree, just to make sure that we're not surprised by anything. But mostly, the thing is that animals are afraid of us as human beings, on foot especially, and that's what makes this a relatively safe operation. You wouldn't be doing this in an area where there were polar bears, for example, which tend to see us as fair game. You wouldn't swim in a lake full of crocodiles. They also see us as fair game. And so, it is, in Africa, it's generally relatively safe as long as you know what you're doing, and of course as long as you're around in the daytime. Things change at night when you get things like lions and leopards and hyenas who are much more confident, and they can tell, of course, that we can't see what's going on at night time. You stumble around, trip over things, you can't see properly, and they pick that up immediately. We're heading towards a pan now, little pan of water over here. It's a very beautiful little pan, and perhaps the lions stopped there for a drink, but perhaps a whole lot else did as well. There's definitely been a huge amount of impala activity through here, which you'd expect on a hot day like this. 30 degrees Celsius odd. 80 degrees, 85 odd Fahrenheit. Not bad for winter, hey? And we're now on a major game path. And this major game path goes all the way up to a dam just north of us, and it's called Sydney's Dam. All right, David has returned to Peast, and he is now on Cheetah Cutline.
Right, we are still hunting for our cats this afternoon, and most important also learning the boundaries with Seb, so I know where I am and where I am not. And we've seen a few trucks behind us a few minutes ago, and they just disappeared. They didn't look whether they're going forward or backwards very, very clearly, and you're trying to find out when you get more fine sand, we can follow them again, and maybe they may lead us to something interesting. We'll try and swing by any watering hole around this area, because when it's warm like this, cats will either very quickly go for a drink as it gets hot, as they, dehydrate, and it's going to be good for us. Trucks have learned here, they do magic. Unlike in Kenya, where you have physically have to look for the animals, here we do the trucks. Sorry, Ginger, you say you would like to see a zebra. Hopefully you'll see one. And Eva, what's the name, sorry? Ginger? Yes, Ginger, I hope I got your name correct. And you're saying you would like to see a zebra. I would be happy to see a zebra too. I haven't seen one zebra, so we'll be maybe sharing our happiness and celebration together as I see and you see your zebra, which I'm sure you might have seen many before, but it's gonna be my first zebra to see here in South Africa. Just to let you know, there's subspecies of each other. Here we have what we call the Grant zebra. The Grant zebra, and in East Africa we have the Plains zebra. Very identical, but the patterns could be slightly bit different. They're like, a subspecies of each other. Ginger, I do not know where you come from, whether you have zebras or not. And I'd be happy if you could also let me know on Twitter why specifically you'd like to see the zebra, and not any other species, not any other animal. If you heard me the other day, you might have gotten me saying, I love zebras. The black and white colors are my favorite colors, and anything black and white, be it clothwear, shoes, hats, any coat, any jumper, anything black and white, I'll always go for it. Still trying to look for any signs of cuts, and you never know. And with this very fine sand, it's very, very easy to pick tracks, and more so of leopards. We saw the Nukuhuma lions yesterday, so today we'll be happy to see some spotted leopards. And James got some interesting amphibian.
We're just discussing what these frogs are, everybody. I don't know what they are. And Herbie was asking if that one stuck in the mud there was actually stuck. I don't think it's stuck. Wonder if they haven't been actually sort of estivating under the mud there. Aren't they lovely? I've got no idea what they are. But I have a frog application on my telephone, so I'll see if I can find out. The first thing we need to do is go to the My Location section, so that they will basically eliminate anything that isn't here. You've got him still. Has he moved? There's another one. Can you see the other one? No, so there's... I'll point with my shadowed stick there. Can you see the edge of the shadow? He's still there. Now, to me, that looks like some kind of... I actually don't know what it is. I'm just looking. It looks a little bit like an ornate frog, but I'm pretty sure it's not an ornate frog. It doesn't have any green on it. River frog, no. Ooh, okay, maybe a striped stream frog. Ah. How about that? A striped stream frog. Yes, I think that's what he is. Let me just check his distribution to make sure. Well, I'm quite lucky. I think it's probably one of the stream frogs. Let me just put that in. Stream frog. Well, let me make it call for you. See if this chap responds. It's watching a fly. Oh yes, it might kill it. We might have a live kill, everybody. Do you think he's going to kill it, Craig? I'm also not sure. Any advances on striped stream frog? I'm very happy to take any ideas from all of you sitting at home looking at our frog. He's a magnificent fellow, you know. We don't get to look at frogs like this. He's too big to be a reed frog. Pretty sure he's just the... Can't surely be the standard issue bubbling casino, can he? There, look, he's going for the fly! Oh my goodness, this is fantastic. Look at that. It's a big fly. Come on, frog. Take that fly. This is the most wonderful... Oh, he's flown away. It's a pity. Penny, you think this is a snout-nosed frog? I'm happy to look at that snout-nosed frog. Let's keep watching him. I don't have snout-nosed frog on my app. Any other name for a snout? What you're calling a snout-nosed frog, Penny? I'm still looking just down through the list. But I think that that's what it is. Unless... No. It's got a very pointy nose. A sharp-nosed frog. Project Alpha, you say a sharp-nosed frog. That's actually a really good call. Just looking at it now. Sharp nose, they have got a sharp nose. He's got yellow underneath his belly and a little bit of red. He's got that little bit of red underneath his eye. Sharp-nosed frog, I'm happy to go with. Let's just check the distribution. Yes, distribution is good. Could easily be a sharp-nosed frog, actually. Well done. So he's a kind of a grass frog. Yes, that's actually much better. He's definitely not a... That's a much better sort of general look. Striped grass frog. He loses his stripes though on his body, doesn't he? Yeah, I'm going to go with a striped, sharp-nosed frog there, Project Alpha. I think you've done a great job finding that. Right, well, apparently our sharp-nosed frog isn't nearly as entertaining as a thieving bird.
Yeah, we got a bird. It was sitting in the open a moment ago. Now it's flapped down into the cover of that small guarri bush. You can just see the very long tail on the screen. There it goes. It's on the ground now. There we go. What's it feeding on? I wonder if any of you out there, I'd love to know the bird is amongst the group. What bird is this? Hashtag Safari Live. What bird is that? Black and white, long tail. It's probably munching on ants right now. Ants or termites? Most likely ants, because they're a little bit more active in the heat of the day. And by the way, it's moving around so quickly and munching, it's definitely a lot of little things on the ground. So I would assume ants, but it is another omnivore and is related to the other bird we saw only moments ago. It's also a cooperative breeder. It also falls under the family. But who can tell me, hashtag Safari Live, what bird is that? Busy foraging? Not too bothered by the formic acid that the ants might be exuding as a defense mechanism. Ravinda, it's actually way bigger than a wider. And we don't get any black and white only widers. The widers have got a little bit of color in them, and even if it's just the beak. And this is probably about 3 times, maybe twice as big as a wider. Angie, you've got it spot on. Anybody else want to have a guess before we announce Angie's victorious name for the bird? Well done, Ali. Well, if those of you have correctly identified it as the magpie shrike, 100% to you. And it is also a cooperative breeder, as we said. And for some reason, the cooperative breeders are all alone today. I don't know what's going on. It is a lonely Sunday. Is it Sunday? It is Sunday. Yes, it is. Okay, so we're going to go from one species that spends time together to another.
Right, the species changes now, and we have another one here, and we got some nice piggies around here, and you can see how when they want to reach the grass, they will kneel down to reach the grass. Warthogs, young female there, 2 of them, and you notice carefully they'll always kneel, and why they will kneel to eat the grass is because they'll use their upper nose or mandible to be able to scrub or to dig if they're eating some tubers there from the grass or rhizomes. And by so doing, that gives them some very good leverage on the head and the neck. And you can see one is pretty wet. We've got some pan of water not very far from where we are. So must have been in there because of the heat of the day. It was maybe trying to cool off. Very interesting how you see them eating, kneeling. What did the Fluffy say, sorry? Pumbaa. All right, Fluffy. Yes, this is very good, Fluffy. I agree with you. Yes, this is Pumbaa, and most likely you must have seen the movie Lion King, Fluffy. Correct, this is Pumbaa. And look at the big boy coming in behind there. And if you look carefully, he got more mud on the hind legs, so he must have been laying or wallowing the water on the bum side. See the shiny left leg? And truly it's Pumbaa. You notice he is not kneeling down. Unlike the other young ones who are kneeling down eating, he can comfortably reach the grass. And a big boy he is, eh? And interesting to see them, feeding like that, because some of the big ones could be anything 60 or like so kilograms, and they are heavy. And it's not common. You rarely see leopards coming for the warthogs. And what I want to do, I really like to see the big one. He looks really big with big, testicles there. We want to try and get a little closer to him and see whether we could get a little bit more view of it, because Pumbaas are always exciting pigs to watch. Let's just get a little closer and see how far they have gone. And this pool of water not very far from where we are. And Sabi, did they go left or right?
I'm not sure. They went left.
Yeah, they're right here. Let's try and sneak on them very slowly, quietly. If they don't go very far, they're a bit skittish sometimes. And look at that big male there. He's so big. Look at him. It's interesting when they run, the females will go ahead and then the male will always come last. And if you saw that big male there, is what I was saying earlier, they are huge, and some of them would be anything like 65, 70, 80 kilos if you got for our Hosanna chief here or the leopard to bring them down because of their size and how huge they are. I would still want to have one more look and see if they're gonna settle down. Aiden, that's a very good question, and you're asking why do they love to play in the mud? Number one, it could be only for one obvious reason. When it gets hot, you remember earlier I was talking about how the temperatures have gone pretty high, maybe 80 plus degrees Fahrenheit or 30 plus, I don't know what the temperatures are in Celsius. That gets very, very hot. And the only one way these warthogs cool themselves down is jumping in the water. And by so doing, they'll be able to cool off. And sometimes when they jump in the water also, what should happen, they may come out with a lot of mud, Aiden, on their bodies, and that mud will just coat their bodies like sunscreen, and what it will do, it will kill any parasite that will be on the skin of the pumbas or the warthogs. It suffocates them, they're not able to breathe, and then they die and they just fall off. So for those two reasons, that's why the warthogs will go in the mud. They've given us a good goodbye, which was fine. That was a good show. And Steve he is by a tree.
Yes, we have found a beautiful specimen of the red bush willow, and I forget who asked before, but how big do they get? This is about as big a specimen as I have ever seen. It is enormous, and it is a beautiful tree. Have you hugged a tree today? You should. It is beautiful. It's magical. I am officially, and I will admit it, I am a tree hugger. I'm not shy to admit it. Beautiful specimen. The red bush willow growing here just above the slope with the silver cluster leaf line in front of me there. And we have another vehicle that I've parked in the road, so I'm going to have to move to get out of the way. I do apologize for my quick movements back to the car now. I have caused a traffic jam. Well, let's go to David, who's got a magnificent animal.
Yes, we just spotted one of the tallest animals that we got in Africa, or the tallest one in the world. 1 minute, we get there. Good, Sabi?
Yeah, that's good.
My apologies, and it's a huge male giraffe, and this is my first giraffe I am seeing in Djuma. This is my first giraffe to see in South Africa. I'm not sure it have a lesion or a big wound in that area there. It seems like it has an infection. I'm not sure it's a fungal disease, some kind of skin disease, some sort. I'll try and closely with my binoculars and see. And on the other side of its neck, you can see the oxpeckers trying to get all the parasites out. As I'm carefully looking to investigate. Very nice. And I'm equally excited like you, seeing a giraffe for the first time. Just as I was talking about the zebra, I'm equally excited to see the giraffe for the first time in South Africa. I'm trying to really explore and find out whether that would have been some fungal infection or a wound of some kind. What I've noticed sometimes with some of these animals, as I move forward a little bit, Sabi, if you allow me, we have seen some of the oxpeckers, when they remove the parasites from the herbivores, there's a place, or they tend to keep pecking on a particular area. And if you look at buffaloes, on the faces of buffaloes, sometimes you might see some 2 marks below there, because the ticks will love to come on this area below the buffaloes, and they have other eyes. Gotta stop right there, right below them. They have little patches. I'm not sure that could be a case here, but it's very interesting to know what could have happened there. Have you seen this giraffe before, Sebastian?
I think so, actually. With the wound on the neck.
Yeah. Well, do you know what could have been the problem?
Yeah, I think it's from a fight. It's a scar from when they neck each other, you know?
Thank you very much, Karsten. Thank you, Seb. Yes, and learning to know that it must have been a fight before, and you realize males fight a lot, and the fights sometimes are very, very fatal, and the horns maybe, or the ossicles could have done its damage. I try and get a little closer to it again, because I'm really interested to see that kind of wood and try and calculate how that blow was that even tore the skin of that giraffe there, and because it survived, then I think it must have been very, very lucky. You'd imagine such a giraffe with such a huge scar, such an area, without a doctor or without medication, that it must have done very, very well to have recovered from that wound. And unlike the wound we have been seeing on one of the lionesses of the Nkrumah lionesses here, this one looks to be very well healed, as he majestically walks away there. That's you asking, how would you tell the age of a giraffe? That could be a very difficult question, and I haven't done that before, but in general you'd look at size. Size would help you more to tell, because if we talk of color, sometimes the colors could be misleading. We have seen some very old giraffes looking very dark, and some young ones also looking very dark. So it could be very difficult to tell. I don't actually have an idea how you tell the age of a giraffe. Honestly, for me, I have no idea completely. But I would say any guesswork I would do, I'll start by looking at the size. Alrighty, still have one more look on it, and then we'll get to looking for other animals. Child of the universe, you are asking whether I can tell the differences between the giraffes of East Africa and the giraffes here. Yes, there are huge differences. I'll tell you, and the only way we tell different species of giraffes is by the patterns on their bodies. We got 4 species of giraffes in the world. We have the southern giraffes here. In Kenya, we have the Maasai giraffe, and you realize the Maasai giraffes are a little taller than these ones, and the patterns are more well developed than the patterns that we just saw there of the southern giraffe. Yes, the pattern, child of the universe, is what tells me there are different species of giraffes. In Kenya, we also got another type that's called the reticulated giraffe, which pattern of the body looks like a fishing net. Very good question there, child of the universe. Yes, excited. A giraffe for the first time. And this morning, elephants, eh? Things are getting better, Seb, for me, eh?
Yeah, it's nice.
James, who is walking, is still looking down.
Well, yes, one must look down if one is looking at something on the ground. I find that is the most helpful place to be looking. That was a yellow pansy. Let's just see if he settles again. Please settle again, yellow pansy. Come on, yellow pansy, settle. Immediately. There, yes, sit, and sit, and sit, sit. Let's just wait for him to sit. He's a most beautiful butterfly. Oh, there he is. Look at that. You got in there, Craig? Well done. Reminds me, of course, of the old English dog handler Barbara Woodhouse. I guess an early precursor to the, what's that dog whisperer's name? Cesar someone. Anyway, she used to say, sit, sit, and all the dogs would sit. And so that's what I've done to the butterfly in the hopes that it will sit. Now, of course, its current resting position is much more the norm for a butterfly. Normally they rest with their wings up, and it is one of the distinguishing features between butterflies and moths. Moths will normally rest with their wings down, so to have him sat on the ground with his wings open like that is quite unusual. We're We're on our far western boundary now, and I think that these lions have probably... Oh, look at that. I think they're probably headed off into Arathusa or Simbambili, these lions. Anyway, we've found lots of small, interesting things. Kestrel fox, you say, a pretty flutterby. Yes, it's a very Sunday sentiment, that, a pretty flutterby. And there were some common, or some African jokers around here as well, which I can't see at the moment. Oh, okay. We're going to go back to our Kenyan genius, who's managed to find, I think, his fifth or sixth mammal of the day.
Just look at this and how things are just rolling, and I'm getting some red carpet welcome in South Africa. And look at the Ellis there. When we found them, initially we saw they had a lot of mud bath on their bodies, but now what you can see, they are doing a dust bath. So they're getting a second coat of the sunscreen from what they had just gotten a few minutes ago. Isn't that beautiful? Look at that. If you look at them carefully, you can see the amount of mud. Yes, they are rumbling there. And if you look at them carefully, you can see they got a lot of mud, the mud cover, which is very, very wet. Sorry about that. Just some nice guests also enjoying the view like us. And just look at that. So what should happen is, because the first coat they have of the mud is wet, so the dust will tend to stick. And you know how we build homes here in Africa? We'll put mud, wet mud, then cover it with dry, excuse me, dust like that. And that one makes a very, very good paste and covers them very, very nicely.
Take that shot where you went.
And
view, please.
Why don't we get a little closer to them, because that's a great view. And I'm getting excited every other minute, having seen elephant this morning, and now what a blessing to see them again in the afternoon. They were very busy eating this morning, and this time we're seeing, or I'm seeing them, or I'm enjoying them having a dust bath. And that's why I've always said in my life, every day in the bush is a different day. Every day is like reading a new page on a book. And look at that. See how relaxed they are? Giraffe Girl, your question is, did I find out what could have been wrong with the elephant we saw this morning? I posed that question to my colleagues in the camp, and all of us are going to meet tonight after dinner and try and explore and find out what could be the possibilities of those pink hairs and why we saw a bit of blood coming in from its anus. We'll definitely try to explore, and yes, Giraffe Girl, please be with us tomorrow again, and most likely we'll have an answer for you. How relaxed they are. And you can tell, if you treat animals nicely, they'll also treat you the same way. You don't get so close to them. You're not so loud. Excuse me. Trish, you're asking how do they keep the dust out of their eyes? If you look at the elephants carefully, and I'm sure Seb, being such a wizard on camera work, he'll bring us close to an elephant eye. Look at the very long eyelashes. You see on that one there? Look at the very long eyelashes. So what they will do as they throw up or they splash like that one exactly, speak of the devil, the dust on their bodies, they very quickly close their eyes and the eyelids will cover the eyes, and of course the long eyelashes will help in making sure the dust doesn't get into their eyes. Just like you know how when you walk and something is coming into your eye, how you very quickly close your eyes? The elephants also do the same. Isn't that amazing? What a moment, Sabi.
Mm-hmm.
It's very exciting for me, Absolutely. I agree with all of you that this is a great sighting. And you see the position of their feet there as they keep picking up the dust and doing a bit of scratch there on the temporal gland. We got impalas snorting there, and I'm not sure.
And the elephants also looking down.
Yes, and the elephant says they're also looking in the same direction. And the baby there is trying to nurse. And you never know. We'll see a combination of that call from the Ellies, from the impalas and the behavior of the Ellies here. They all look in the same direction. And the Ellies have just stopped eating now. Ears out on both of them. Could have been a false alarm. And they seem like all is good. And they are deciding to do the thing. See that young one there? Look at it, look at it, look at that.
There's something in his pocket.
Definitely. Definitely. Okay, very good, very good. That trumpeting to me tells me there could be something in this little block here, and I'm sure we will try and comb it out and find out what that could be, because that trumpeting was not very normal. This herd of elephant, I think they're all related, but that trumpeting to me doesn't sound very, very normal. Let's just get so close and find out what could be happening here, because that was rather an unusual behavior of Ellis. They will not trumpet for no reason. We're not very far from my favorite Chitwa Waterhole, but that trumpeting leaves me with a few questions. Hopefully the final destination of this Ellis will be the Chitwa hole to go for a drink or possibly even a swim. This is very exciting for me. Sabi is turning up to get the highest vantage point. Linda, I couldn't agree with you further that you could watch elephants all day. For the big mammals, this is my favorite animal, as I said before, by what they do, how they behave, and they will. Did you hear that? Mm-hmm. Oh, the impalas are going crazy, And it could be a combination of ratting for the impalas. It could be a combination of any concern of a predator around here. Mm-hmm. But again, you never know. We got one huge male coming down here. I'm not sure he's coming to say hello, David, and welcome to South Africa. If you decide to move here, David, we shall give you enough entertainment and you'll forget East Africa. It's a huge bull just walking so close to us. Very majestic. You can hear him cracking and breaking the sticks it's walking. Craig, sorry about the poll there, and your question is have I ever seen elephants sneezing, Craig, or have I heard them sneeze? I would be happy. I can tell you I haven't heard of that. And if that should happen, I would be one very happy boy. But that's a very interesting question, Craig, there. Hopefully today could be the day we hear them sneeze. Who knows? There's always a first time for everything, eh? So they seem to have calmed down now, because initially the trumpeting we had before, to me, was of big concern. And the impalas gave some alarm. The ellies did the same, but now things seem to have calmed down. And it could be a predator also that came very quickly and took off. And once they realize he's gone, everything calms down. And as I said earlier, the Chitwa Waterhole is not very, very far from here. And I'm crossing fingers, hoping that they might be getting there for a quick drink. And if that happens, I can tell you we'll be expecting to get a better show. And I do not know what James is doing with trees the whole afternoon. Being a Sunday, can he tell us what he's doing?
Well, I suspect you probably will be able to tell him what I am doing, because there's nothing secret about it. But this tree I told you the other day was a rare tree on Djuma, and in fact this tree isn't on Djuma. I'll let you in on a little secret. It's just on Arethusa. I'm standing 1 foot off the road, but I figure they won't mind us looking at their tree, I'm pretty sure. This is the scented thorn, and it's one of the most common acacia trees or Vachellia trees down on the river sort of side of the Sabi sands, what I was going for. And it's called the scented thorn because if you break open the pod and smell the sap, it smells like those apple sweets. You know, if you have those apple-flavoured boiled sweets, I don't know if you get them where you happen to be in the world, but that's what it smells like. It's a delicious smell, but you are immediately induced to do this sort of thing. And it is bitter beyond measure. It is absolutely unspeakably bitter, and that tiny little drop has filled my whole mouth with a taste of bile. And so the sweet, gentle, childhood, nostalgic smell of apple boiled sweets, or those lollipops we used to get, fizz pops they were called, is ruined by the taste. But that's why it's called the scented thorn, or Vachellia nilotica. And I showed you one that had died the other day. It had fallen over. It had been killed by elephants, I think. And there's so few of them. There are a couple on quarantine clearings just outside the camp. But otherwise, there really are not many down here. At least up here. Down in the south, quite a few. And certainly as you head down towards KwaZulu-Natal, there are many, many. I'm going to put that back up there. I'm not sure why up there is better than in the ground, but, it feels a little bit more like where it came from. Anyway, so now we'll just quickly sneak out here. Carrot cube, I don't think even sugar would make a difference to that taste. It really is very disgusting. It leaves the same aftertaste, however, it's quite interesting, as the bark, the inner bark of knobthorn. If you cut open a knobthorn and slice out the inner bark and eat that, it's quite a nice kind of chewing gum type thing. It's relatively sweet, but it leaves the same aftertaste as that very bitter, bile tasting sap. Yuck. Righty. We're going to head back into Djuma. We've given up on any lions. The tracks definitely didn't come back here. So we're going to head down to Treehouse Dam and see what's going on there. I don't think anyone knows the answer to this question, Shelley. The rarest tree in the world, I think, probably has not been described by science because nobody's bothered to see it. There are a number of protected tree species in South Africa. The baobab is one of them. The jackalberry is one of them. But I think these are protected trees because they're sought after for their wood and for their fruits and that sort of thing. So human harvesting is causing a sort of decline in their numbers. But I don't know what the rarest tree in the world is. I suspect, like I say, it's probably some forest tree somewhere in the jungles of the Congo, or perhaps South America or Southeast Asia that hasn't been described yet. I'd be happy to take any feedback that you might have on that score. Here's not a particularly rare tree. It does seem to be a bit of a tree day today. I will try and find some mammals. This is, of course, the false marula tree. For some reason, Viam's favourite tree. I cannot fathom why it should be so, but that is what it is. And you can see, once the elephants have taken the bark off, it's opened it up to borer beetles. I think that's what's... No, in fact, that's definitely not a borer beetle. These little things here are borer beetles. You see the little ones? Possibly even some carpenter bees. But what this is a woodpecker hammering a hole to pull out the larvae of the insects that have laid their eggs in the wood. Isn't that cool? Say it's cool, Craig. It's very cool, apparently. Marvellous. Okay, let's carry on. Lots of life on that little tree. Sitting as it is, watching the Sunday sunset. David, can see, is now not only finding the animals, but correctly predicting their movements, which is most impressive.
This is unbelievable for me, because what I anticipated is happening. And yes, I agree with you, Kirsty. I guessed what could happen, and the chances were they were heading right to my favorite waterhole, Chitwa waterhole, and look at them now on a line. I'll keep quiet for a few seconds for you just to enjoy this view. This is, for me, magnificent. My anticipation has worked fine, and my guess was they might be coming to have a drink, and yes, right there, having a drink. And we got the Egyptian geese next to them, and they're like, you mind your business, you mind our business. It's time for us to drink. We know you live here, but you also need this water to quench our thirst. Look at the big bull, he's just walking in front of us. Look at his size. Debbie, this is what I would call a fiesta. I agree with you. This is a fiesta. True party here. Funny that they're drinking and at the same time doing their number two business. I don't understand the behavior of that particular youngster there. Looks like to me he's a boy, and I would easily say boys will be boys. You come to drink, you need to respect your watering hole, eh? Seb is laughing. That was not very... That was out of character. Yeah, I mean, Seb agrees with me. You don't pee and you poop in your nice watering hole. If you're getting some nice cold orange juice, for example, and then you behave like that, it will not be very, very good for the next guest. You notice how the big male stands out. He doesn't show any signs of being in mast, so that's why you see the females are very, very comfortable with him there. In general, sometimes when you get the big bulls in mast and when they come close to the females, you'll see the females reacting angrily and not getting very happy with a male that's in mast. See, there's a very young baby there. If you look, absolutely. This is magnificent, as I said. Look at that little young baby there, trying to catch up with mama. Teeny, I would say he's still under 1 year. Young. Great stuff here. And the baby takes very, very good cover from everybody. And you see how clever the Ellies are. They keep the baby right in the middle of the herd there. And maybe the mother will drink enough for herself and also for the baby. Just see how the drops, well done, good camera work there, Seb. Just look at the drops, how they fall back right in the water. Look at that. And you see the water or the drop bounce right from the surface of the water. See that? Well done. Good camera work, Seb, there.
Thanks, Dave.
So they'll scoop as much as water as possible for them to quench their thirst here. And you can see that as like an eyelash, or someone was doing some beauty work on her face, the young one there, but that's a little line of dust that wasn't covered very well by the mud. It's like someone was trying to do an eyebrow on the wrong side. Thirsty Ellies. They may not seem to be drinking a lot. The young one is trying to go in, and you can see the legs up to the knees, or the whole trunk was in the water if you look carefully, which was, I think, first attempt to go in the water, and oops, come on. The matriarch there, I guess the big one there is the matriarch. In general, the oldest is always the matriarch. She is trying to put some order in the herd here. And we're waiting for her to give the command. Pangolin would like to know what, sorry, Casti?
Gonna get an infection from drinking the water.
Pangolin, you'd like to know if elephants could get an infection from drinking dirty water. I would say that one I do not know, but I would say in the wilderness where we are, it's very, very difficult to get any dirty water. I wouldn't know if there's no, I would say, human interference in the wilderness. Everything tends to remain clean, unless, for example, I would say some dangerous, say, or poisonous snake would die in the water, or they swallow it by mistake. I highly doubt that would happen, but they got very good mechanism to take care of what they would eat, and what they would drink. I would highly doubt they would get an infection. And if that would happen, I would think Mother Nature, depending on what they eat, would take care of that very, very quickly. A few more Ellies have just come in, and they might go back to the water to have more drinks. I'm just loving this. So I think a decision has to be made there. I think there's an agreement and they are discussing something. You can see the change in the body language there. How many have had enough drink? How many have not? We need to do this. I'm just guessing. I wouldn't know what they're talking about, but definitely you can tell there's some important discussion going on there. We'll just very quietly wait and see what they agree to do. Ali, you'd like to know if there's a difference between the South African and the Kenyan elephants. I would say no. Everything, behavior, reproduction, habitat, habits, everything remains the same. Gestation period, what I might have picked up, and I'm still trying to talk with my presenters or my colleagues here in South Africa, I thought the ellies or the elephants in South Africa are a little bit rounded as compared to the elephants in Kenya. I'm thinking. So I'm yet to see more herds of elephants. This is my second hand, luckily today, my second hand of elephants to see. I'm yet to see more and look at them closely, but I would be happy to know if the same. But I think these ones here are more rounded than the ones we have in Kenya, which I think they are more angular. Well, it's time to move, and you can see the big one, there is the matriarch. One had changed the direction and was walking the other way, and the matriarch was, I said, this is the direction we're going, we are all going south, move. Great waterhole we are, and as the elephants are leaving, Seb, do you see that small little croc, baby croc in the water there? Right. Now we're changing from the mammals and we got a reptile. What an activity, what a great spot to be at this waterhole, eh? And the croc doesn't seem to be worried, and Steve have a different type of mammal.
A mammal that likes water almost as much as elephants do, the waterbuck. And we're sitting here with a male who is licking his lips for unknown reasons. He's just been standing there, staring into the distance, not eating, not ruminating, just the odd lick of the lips from time to time. And we are on our way to twin dams. We have just visited Treehouse Dam, Waterhole, and no animals moving in and around. The temperature's slowly starting to subside, so we're hoping at any one stage now we might get the movement of some spotted feline of sorts. But this waterbuck is very relaxed. Don't know what's going on with him. Maybe he's hoping his ladies are going to be returning soon. Don't you just love that nose? It's so wet. What's he doing, Dave? Do you know, man? He's just thinking. There we go. Just thinking. He's enjoying a Sunday afternoon, Kirst, you're right. What did you hear, boy? The beautiful horns. That white ring on the bottom. David would be familiar with this one, but then also the Defasa waterbuck that has got the entire white circle, not just the ring. And there we go. Now we get the other profile. He's like, this is my better side. Let's go, David, quickly.
Right, we just saw one herd that just came in. Just listen to that. I'm not sure what could have gone wrong, because the first herd of Ellies had their drink and they were all full and they were ready to leave. And to our right, another herd of about 8-10 of them was coming in, and the herd that was leaving made a very quick U-turn and came back towards these other ones. And there was a little confrontation, not very big, between the two herds. And I think now what they're doing is trying to know each other and doing meet and greet. As the hippo is wondering what could have gone wrong. And I think the one herd that had finished drinking now is making a move. The herd behind them has not had a drink, not even a drop. So there could be two definitely different families that met. And I'm not sure why they would not want to meet. There's a huge bull following them there, and you can tell 150% that's a boy. Now this could be a bit of a concern. Dave, yes, those sounds of Ellie's trumpeting there were great. They're like what I would call some, ecotones or natural tones of the earth or of the wilderness. How majestic when you see them walking there on the edge of the waterhole. Great lighting. And almost you might not even hear them walk as much as they look so huge. And behind them, the male is following them very, very closely. I'm not sure this male could be in mast, and that's why the Ellies got very uncomfortable and they're going away from him. I'm still convinced the second herd of elephants, the second herd might come for a drink because they didn't drink any water as soon as the other herd turned around and they came to meet them, and there was a little bit of a scuffle there. Four-wheel drive to get over that, to keep going. Go, go, go. Yes, and that's another boy there. A lot of youngsters in this herd. Very, very good light coming through there as they're leaving the waterhole. I still believe the second herd of elephants will turn around and come for a drink. I mean, they eat so much elephants and they also need to drink equally as much. Emilia, your question is, do all families have a matriarch? Yes, all families will have a matriarch, and she's a female who makes the most crucial or the most important decisions. However a family might be it of 2 or 3 members or up to about 50 members, there's always one female leader. There'll always be a matriarch, Emilia, in every family of the elephants. It doesn't have to be necessarily the largest, but in general is always the oldest. The oldest definitely will have had a lot of experience in life and should always make good calls and good judgments when there'll be, any concerns or any doubt in the herd. But also you tend to see, in general also, the matriarchs are big in size. That one is still enjoying the green grass because it's pretty fresh and it gets very soft. Being near the waterhole. Hopefully it doesn't lag behind so much and is left by the others. I think very slowly the one herd that didn't or hadn't had a drink at the very end of the waterhole is thinking of getting in the water now to have a drink too. I think it's their turn. The disagreement that was there might have been sorted amicably now. And elephants mostly are always very closely related. Andrea, you'd like to know why so many elephants in Kenya don't have tails or their tails are missing. We have been having this debate for quite some time, and all of us have different theories of why these tails are missing. And one of the theories that I've personally had is genetical. And, that happens if the mother or the father didn't have a tail. That might happen to the calf. 2, we have thought when they're playing or when they're being playful, sometimes you'll see them either grabbing the tails when they're young with their trunks, and when one would try to flee, the tail would just snap. We have seen some bloody ellies when they're young and the tails looking bloody, and when the tails are missing, and we have said chances are that is what could have happened. A third theory that doesn't carry so much water to me is occasionally, maybe when they're very young, predators like lions have gone for the babies when the mothers are not very, very watchful. And Emilia, we have those 3 theories in Kenya, but hopefully some of the experts will tell us for a fact what could have, happened to these ellies' missing tails. And apart from missing tails, their life has continued as normal. I haven't seen one elephant missing a tail. Well, I haven't seen many. This is my second herd of elephants to see. And from what I saw in the morning and all what I've seen here, all their tails are intact and in place. I'm still looking for the ellie we saw this morning with the pink ears. We haven't seen it. It could definitely be in a different herd. James is walking towards another waterhole.
I am walking towards another waterhole. Oh, here we go. Come on, David. At least, what's her name again? Craig. What we have here is Polyrhynchus the ant. Polyrhynchus, there she is. And what I'm going to do is use this as a seg. Is that the correct word? Seg into a story about ants that milk aphids. And we had a long discussion the other day about the drop-tailed ants that were milking aphids on a grass stalk. And I originally made the mistake of saying, well, they're obviously hunting the aphids, and then somebody very kindly pointed out that that was nonsense, and they were much more likely milking the aphids for their honeydew, which is the sort of excretion they produce when they eat, or when they drink the plant sap. I agreed with that, and then said that there was quite a nice little arrangement, it wasn't very harmful. Well, quick as a flash, Judy H. found me a wonderful article of research that shows that those ants that milk aphids are not being very nice to them at all. Quite often they secrete chemicals that result in the aphids being unable to move properly, and so they become more docile, much more easy to milk. Sometimes I think they give them chemicals that might actually kill them. They give them chemicals that stop this, maybe induce them to breed or something like that. Basically, they control them and get them into a big group together with chemicals, and all of that exuded by these aphid milking ants. Wonderful. Polyrhynchus is not an aphid milker. I'm not actually sure what Polyrhynchus eats, though. What do you eat, my dear? Sunday roast for you? We have a Sunday roast waiting for us when we get home. Are you excited, Craig? Very, he says. Very good. I felt like before we found that ant that basically we've just been walking today. We haven't found anything of massive significance yet, and we're hoping that that will take place at Treehouse Dam, which is where we're heading now. It's not too far from here. It's quite far from here, but not too far from here. Maybe we'll bump into something like that buffalo bull, or perhaps another herd of elephants. That would be nice. Let's see what we've got over here on this dead tree. What was that, Kirsten? What was that sarcastic comment? An elephant would be nice. Yes, I agree with you. I agree an elephant would be very nice. I'm told, everybody, that it's so relaxed here on Sundays that the two ladies in the final control are eating cheesecake as we speak. I suddenly feel quite hungry. Now, what I was hoping to find here is perhaps something under the bark. Let's have a look here. Yes, what we do have here, I don't want to destroy too much of it, is the track and detritus of a wood termite. You see that, Craig? Just see if I can wedge it off. Watch out there. I'm doing a particularly poor job. Try it on the stick. It's not going to work. It's also not going to work. Anyway, what's happened here is that here we go. The wood termites have come up here and they're long gone from here now. They've eaten off what they wanted to eat, and they have basically left the old bark intact, and they've just gone for the underside of the wood. Now the reason they've done that is so that as they were working here, as they were taking the wood that they wanted from this tree, they could do it in complete protection. So they would have been completely underneath the surface of this dead tree. I think it was probably, I don't know what it was, I don't think it was a knobthorn. It was quite a big tree at one stage. It may be a very, very old dead red bush willow. But they were completely protected from the sun and from any predators, except perhaps very brave woodpeckers that tried to get through the wood. And now you can see they've moved on. And of course, as I've told you before, this sand is apparently edible. Yeah, I never understood that. I just don't get it. David finds another mammal.
James will always eat anything. How he has been surviving all these years in the wilderness, I do not know. There's nothing he doesn't try. And, right, we have those two hippos there. I'm not sure they're playing or they are mating. And after a great show we had with the Ellis, now we have the hippos here entertaining us. Those particular two, either the two youngsters, being very, very playful, and I'm sure the parents are watching. He turning around, enjoying the cold temperatures of the water. Yeah, that's more of a play. Either they're very closely related or they're very good friends. When they get big and older, you'll see them having very big teeth marks on their bodies. And that's because of their huge tusks. Woo! Good stuff. Is he on top of the other one? Or is he just walking? Exactly. You can see the pink under the neck. All right, sitting down again. That has a wound or something on the left of his abdomen. That could have been a tooth mark, I don't know. Yeah, I do not know what could have been, but yeah, it looks like the skin has a little, either wound or a little tumor. I don't know what it is. It reminds me of the giraffe that we saw earlier that had that big scar on the neck. But these things will always happen out here, in the wild wilderness. The animals will fight more so males than females, and scars, be they claw marks, teeth marks, are left on the bodies. Most will survive. Some, unfortunately, will die. this morning I had a question from one of the viewers who wanted to know if, hippos sleep in water. And I might have given an answer that was not very sure of, but I've done my research and found out, yes, hippos would comfortably sleep in water. You'd like to know if elephants and hippos would have a confrontation or would have an issue or a concern or go for each other while in the water. Seldom or rarely that happens. Elephants will come to the watering hole for a very short time, come drink unless they want to have a swim. But if that happens, they're so huge to the hippos, and the hippos may move a little bit away from them. But in general, we haven't seen them fighting. And elephants, that big, hippos, that big. And both of them apparently are herbivores, and they have a commonality on what they eat. So hippos will not go for the elephants, and elephant rarely will they go for the hippos. They'll respect each other, just like how we see the hippos and the crocs, like the one small croc we're seeing in the water, respecting each other in such a beautiful habitat. And as soon as we saw before, the elephants did the drinking, they just took off and they were done. And it's a clear understanding: we come, we drink, we are done, we are gone. It's that simple. So listen to that. I do not know what story they are telling, and I'm sure either telltales they're communicating and passing some good stories to them. The temperatures are coming down, and as it goes to dusk is when hippos will always leave the water, and most likely they're making plans of where they'll go and graze tonight. And one of the reasons that makes it easier for the hippos to sleep under the water, if you look at them carefully there, you can see it's like the nose and the eyes are on top of the head. Unlike other animals, you got the eyes, for example, on the side of the head. The hippos, it's like their eyes are right on top, and the nose too. So when they have a little nap under the water, say for about 5 minutes before they come out to breathe, they could comfortably stay in and just pop up, have a quick carbon dioxide out, oxygen in, and right back in the water. Kathy, you'd like to know why hippos make such a loud noise. A number of reasons, and it's basically communication, number one. And as I said earlier, they could be making plans of what happens tonight once they are out and they go foraging or they go feeding. But should it be one call from one particular, say, dominant male, he would be making a territorial call, and he would be passing a message. You know what? Yep, I am in charge here, and I am the boss. That, I would say, would be the two reasons they make those calls. And ideally, they would be communicating with each other, like how human beings, will always pass messages to each other. Laurie, you would like to know if the hippos make plans to stay together when they're out of water. And I would say yes. We have always said here in the wilderness, safety in numbers. Occasionally you might see one lagging behind or one going off from the others. And that becomes a bit tricky because he or she might get lost or get brought down by the predators. In general, they'll always stay together. And that way, again, safety numbers, go, forage, eat together, and come back to the water, at dawn together.